Gracious remarks of yours. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Before I start, special thanks to UN Women, in particular the two energetic people behind, the leadership behind the UN Women in Pakistan, Lasana Wone that you just heard, and Sharmila Rasool, she's also there. The best part is that their hearts beat with us in Pakistan, and that's the wonderful part, you see. And I found them more Pakistani than anybody else. But thank you for being here with us, and thank you for putting this all together for us also. Thank you to the FGA team, the wonderful team under the leadership of our Director General, Hayat Ali Shah, who's done a wonderful job. And I hope that this partnership continues, and we get to make a difference eventually on this particular issue of inclusivity, which we'll talk about today. So let me just start off by, I think there was no better starting point than referring to Cornelia Sorabji, who was a pioneering figure in the history of women's rights in India and a trailblazer in the legal field. Born in 1866 in Maharashtra, India, she was the first woman to graduate from Bombay University. Despite facing significant opposition due to her gender, she won a scholarship to study at Somerville College, Oxford, becoming the first Indian woman to study at any British university. And I quote from her, and that's the starting point for today. So Cornelia Sorabji says, "I've never asked for concessions to my sex. I've only ever asked for equality." And that kind of sets the tone for this entire discussion that we're going to talk about. So inclusive justice, in its broadest sense, would refer to a concept aimed at ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, identity, or status, has equal access to justice. That everyone should be treated equally under law and without any discrimination based on race, gender, age, disability, socioeconomic status, or any other characteristic. But today, we talk about inclusive judiciary, which is one that reflects diversity of the society it serves. But more particularly, we talk about today about a gender-inclusive judiciary, or a gender-equitable judiciary, or more precisely, a women-inclusive judiciary, which focuses specifically on increasing meaningful representation and valued participation of women within the judicial system. So that's the focus, because inclusivity talks about a number of other factors. Let's just home in on bringing women into picture, into the justice system. So this approach is often motivated by a historical underrepresentation of women in the judiciary and seeks to correct this imbalance. And that's what we want to focus in the next 2 days, please. So it's important to understand, and I think this is something that we need to really share and understand, the terms equality, the term equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it's important to set it out in the beginning before we start the day. So equality actually refers to the principle that all people are equal and should be treated equally. In the modern context, equality has come to mean treating every person identically. It means providing the same level of opportunity and assistance to all segments of society, such as in rights, status, and opportunities. It seeks to ensure that everyone gets the same things in order to enjoy full, healthy lives. It assumes that everyone starts from the same place and needs the same help. For example, in a classroom setting, equality would mean giving every student the same textbook. Equality does not necessarily involve trying to compensate for historical or social disadvantages. Then comes equity. On the other hand, equity involves recognizing that people start from different places and therefore may need different resources or opportunities to achieve similar outcomes. Equity is different from equality because it argues that treating people identically is not always just or fair. In the classroom example, equity would mean providing additional resources like tutoring or special accommodations to students who need them to reach the same level of understanding as their peers. Some people are more advantaged than the others, and fair treatment should be about taking these differences into account to create a level playing field. Equity is the principle that justifies affirmative action and positive discrimination. People should be treated unequally if that is what is needed to attain more equal outcome. Then comes the word diversity. Now, diversity refers to the representation of individuals with diverse backgrounds, perspectives, abilities, and traits in an organization. Diversity is simply about having different identities present at the table. It is inclusivity or inclusion that makes the presence meaningful. So inclusivity or inclusion then refers to actions and strategies of organizations aimed at making their diverse members coexist and getting the best out of them. Hence the inclusivity conference symposium here. It is about how employees feel at the workplace and the extent to which employers embrace them and allow them to make a meaningful contribution. I am of the view that equity and equality are inbuilt in inclusion. Inclusion is therefore a more wholesome version of equality, equity, and diversity. Werner Myers is a highly respected thought leader. Anybody who hasn't read her, please do. One of the thought leaders for inclusivity and diversity, a speaker, author, and a consultant. And I quote her. She says, and this actually sums it up and explains things very clearly. Diversity is being invited to the party. I repeat, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. So that's the difference between diversity and inclusion. So inclusion is far more wholesome, and that's what we need to move forward to. Another thought leader in the area is Jennifer Brown, a speaker, an author, and Brown's work focuses on leadership and inclusion in the workplace. She says, diversity is the who and what, inclusion is the how. So that's how actually actualizing diversity is inclusion. So why a gender equitable judiciary or a women-inclusive judiciary is important? Now, Brenda Hale, who's also a friend but also former president of the UK Supreme Court, says, a judiciary composed only of men is not properly constituted judiciary. It is missing something important, and that's certainly women. So, why do we need to rethink the way we're working? And I'll come to the figures and statistics which are appalling, but I'll come to that later. But why do we require women in our judiciary? Why do we require a women-inclusive judiciary? Why do we need a gender-equitable judiciary? Because there's a new perspective that the women bring, one of the factors. Women bring different life experiences and perspectives to the bench. And I've experienced that sitting with Justice Aisha, frankly. I have felt that in a number of cases I've learned a lot because that's the perspective that's come on the bench. And earlier I thought this was just a theory, but no, I actually realized that. Which can enrich judicial decision-making. Diverse perspectives help ensure that judiciary reflects the society it serves and can lead to more thorough and nuanced interpretations of the law. Their presence can influence the development of jurisprudence in areas affecting women and children and beyond, Let's not limit women judges to family laws and family matters. They go beyond that, please. I mean, there's a general understanding that a female judge ought to be given family work. That's not correct. We need to move beyond that. I think that deserves a clap, actually. Just to lighten the mood a little. The second real important factor would be fair representation. Women make up approximately half of the population. I'm coming to the figures in a bit. So their representation in the judiciary helps achieve a gender balance that mirrors society's demographic structure. This representation is crucial for the legitimacy and credibility of the justice system itself. Role modeling. Female judges serve as a role model and inspire women and girls to pursue careers in law and other fields traditionally dominated by men. And I'm thankful to the women in law here who've done a wonderful exhibition, which you might have seen, which is being displayed at the Federal Judicial Academy. I mean, that's the kind of work we require, that's the kind of networking, and that's the kind of awareness programs that we need to do. And I want to thank Nida Usman sitting here, who's been a person behind it. So their presence can help break down gender barriers and promote gender equality within the legal profession. Then, enhanced public confidence. A judiciary that reflects the diversity of the community it serves can enhance public confidence in the legal system. People are more likely to trust and feel fairly treated by a system that includes judges who share their gender, cultural, or ethnic backgrounds. It is also a promotion of equality. By actively promoting gender diversity in the judiciary, the legal system reinforces the importance of equality and non-discrimination, principles that are foundational to democratic governance and the rule of law. And I refer to Sandra Day O'Connor, the first US Supreme Court judge, and I quote, "Society as a whole benefits immensely from a diverse judiciary that includes fair representation of women who constitute more than half the population." And Audre Lorde, an influential American writer and a feminist, and I quote, "It is not our differences that divide us." This is a wonderful quote, and I want you to pay attention to it. And she's a wonderful writer. I'm sure you've heard of Audre Lorde. "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize and accept and celebrate those differences." And I think that also sets the tone. Now I'm getting into a rather depressing area, the statistics of Pakistan. So bear with me. Pakistan has a population of 243 million, while women make 49.56% of it, which is almost 50%. According to the Global Gender Gap Report 2023, World Economic Forum, Pakistan ranks 142nd out of 146 countries, making it the fourth lowest globally in terms of gender parity. A significant portion of Pakistan's population is young, which is a beautiful, wonderful factor. About 64% of the total population is under the age of 30, and 29% is specifically between the ages of 15 and 29. This demographic distribution highlights the potential for a significant demographic dividend if properly harnessed through education, employment, and civic engagement opportunities. I think this moment in our history we must seize. As they say, carpe diem. This is the time to seize this moment. And we have a population and the demographics which no other country around us has. And we cannot sleep and let this pass by. This is the time to really act. So the total number of judges in Pakistan, because we just specifically in the next 2 days want to talk about how to make our judiciary more women inclusive. So according to the most recent statistic compiled by Law and Justice Commission, thanks to Rifat Bhatt sitting here, our secretary, who's been a great support in this, and my law clerk, Umar Ranja. There are 3,534 judges in Pakistan, servicing 243 million people. That itself is a problem, but I'm not going in that direction. Including the Constitutional Court and the district judiciary, 3,534 judges in Pakistan. There are 17 judges in the Supreme Court, including 2 women judges. That's 11% of women representation at the Supreme Court. Out of 143 judges in the high courts, there are 5 women judges, making their representation only 3.5% all across Pakistan in the high courts. I'm glad that our judge from the Supreme Court is here and one of our judges from the high courts is here. Thank you for being here. Out of the 3,374 judges of the district judiciary, 562 judges are women, making their representation only about 17%. So we're talking about 11% at the Supreme Court, 3.5% at the high courts, about 16.65 or 16.7% in the district judiciary, which is the real area which we need to focus. And in totality, women judges make up to 16.3% of the entire judiciary in Pakistan. That's no figure if you look at your demographics. You have 50% as a population. The judges, the female judges, or the women judges in the judiciary are only 16.3%. So one vision statement that I could sort of put down on the table is that we need to take it to 50%. And that is the whole exercise. This 2 days, and I just want to hear good ideas. How do we move the 16% to 50%? That's what we need to achieve. And I want to see if there's some good ideas coming out of it so that we implement and actualize that and make Pakistan the first country which has 50% women, as per our demographics, as judges in our judiciary. That does deserve a clap, actually. That also gives me a little break also. So just again going down at the granular level and just pointing out, very interestingly, how various provinces are also acting on this. There are 5 judges in the provincial high courts. So interestingly, Punjab, which has a population of 127 million and with a women population of 56 million, has 1 female judge at the high court. That's not very exciting. And so that's just 1 judge in Punjab, the largest province population-wise. Sindh has 3 women judges. One of them is here. And the population of women in Sindh is 23 million. So 23 million, just 3 judges. I could go to the other provinces, but I want to go to KP first. Now, KP has, and Balochistan has 0 women judges in their high courts. And the population of women in KPK is 19 million. And the population of women in Balochistan is about 6 million, and we don't have a judge in either of these 2 high courts. Not very encouraging. And of course, there are no women judges in the federal Shariat court. So Khyber Pakhtunkhwa also has which is very encouraging though, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa also has the highest representation of women judges in the district judiciary. I didn't know till I got the data. 126 women judges out of 504 judges, making it a 25% representation of women judges in KP, and they deserve a hand on this one. One would never really think that KP would be going in that direction. Wonderful. You just have to plug another 25%. Islamabad Capital Territory is at 23%. It's a smaller area. But Punjab, you see, one of the leading provinces, has just 17% women in the district judiciary. Sindh has 13 and Balochistan has 12. But I'm not too happy with Punjab with 17%. There are 1,738 judges and 292 women judges, which constitute 17%. In Punjab and Balochistan, there is not a single woman judge who is heading a district. Isn't that sad? In Punjab, I forget about Balochistan, there could be issues, security issues. But in Punjab, there is not a single district judge, a woman single district judge who's heading a district. Sindh has 1 woman judge heading a district, while there are 6 judges heading districts in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So my compliments to the Chief Justice of the Peshawar High Court. They're doing a wonderful job in KP, in spite of all the challenges they're facing. Now, further depression comes in. When we talk about, we just wanted to see how women are coming into judiciary, because in the district judiciary, you take an exam and you come into the system. So just try to look at the data to see what's the kind of increase or decrease in the interest of women joining district judiciary. And it's, on a sad note, I say that in Punjab, we've seen a 75% decrease in women joining the district judiciary. In Sindh, there is a 38% decrease. In KP, there's a 30% decrease. However, there is an increase in Balochistan, for whatever figures we got, which is encouraging, but otherwise, people are just women are staying away from judiciary. They don't want to join the district judiciary, and it's kind of receding. In 2000, well, the figures, I don't need to go into every province, but that's the general statistics that we have. Coming on to the paralegal staff, 48,000 people or persons constitute our paralegal staff, which is servicing these 3,000 or so judges in the country, and especially in the district. So out of this 48,000 paralegal staff in the country, you won't be able to imagine how many women staff do we have across the country. We just have about 1,200 women, which constitutes about 2.5%. In a team of 48,000 paralegal staff, we just have 1,200 women, which is 2.5, in a population of 121 million women in the country. So with a population of 121 million in the country, we just have 1,200 women servicing all the judges, in all Pakistan, 2%. In Punjab, we just have 912 women out of the staff servicing all those judges that I talked about, and Sindh has 59 women, KP has 208 women, and it goes on in that kind of direction, which is not very healthy and encouraging. And in the high courts, the paralegal staff, women, is just 4% of the entire staff we have in the high courts in the country. And I hope with Sana Minhas, Justice Sana Minhas there now in Sindh, and Justice Aisha at the Supreme Court, we'll have more judges, at least in our court, more female staff, paralegal staff, in our courts at least. We need to open that up. Now let me come to the Attorney General's office and the Advocate General's office. I'm sure some of you people are working for them also. So there's a total of 169 lawyers working in the Attorney General's office. Out of 169 lawyers, guess how many are women lawyers? Just 19, which is 11% of the total strength. I mean, if we're not doing that well at the judicial side, I mean, come on, the Attorney General's office could have done something better, but they just have 11% of the total strength. Where are the women, I would ask? Where are the women lawyers? Why aren't they joining the Attorney General's office? What's happening? As we move forward towards the Advocate General's office, Punjab has 57 lawyers, out of which only 4 women are working at the Advocate General's office, which is 7%. I'm surprised. Where are they and what's happening? In Sindh, there are 2 women lawyers. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, only 17 women lawyers, while in Islamabad, 1 woman lawyer works for the Advocate General's office. And there is no women representation in the Advocate General office of Balochistan. Prosecutors. Total strength of the prosecutors in Pakistan is 2,200, approximately, out of which there are only 340 women, so making a 15% or total of the total strength. We're just not breaking the ceiling above 16%. We're not breaking it. We're just stuck on 15 to 16%. That's the highest figure we've reached. Islamabad has the highest representation of female prosecutors, which is 22%, followed by Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Balochistan. But overall, when you look at it, it's just 15%. Now let's look at lawyers in academia, for that matter. The entire supply chain. Where are the women? As far as the lawyers are concerned, there are about 39,000 or about 40,000 women lawyers in Pakistan, out of 238,000 lawyers in the country. That would again be 17%. Are we really seriously stuck on the 17, 16%? We're not moving beyond that. Then let's go to the Pakistan Bar Council. Has a total of 5,000 odd members, lawyers, out of which 189 members are women, which is again 4%. Pakistan Bar Council, which is a regulatory body looking at this entire sector, itself does not have women, so I don't know how are they going to regulate things. Punjab has the highest number of women lawyers, that's about 17,800 or so. And out of which, women lawyers are 17,000, out of a total of 45,000 lawyers, which is also 13%. So in Punjab, I keep referring to Punjab, thinking of it as to be perhaps a province we need to showcase because of its education facilities and the budgetary requirements, but it has 13% of the strength. Yet Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, once again, takes the cake. Has the highest representation of women lawyers, that is 13,750 out of 48,000, which is 28% of the representation. And could I just request the members of the district judiciary from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to stand up for an applaud on this one? Is anybody here for Khyber? You deserve a round of, and Justice Dr. Khurshid is here from the High Court. Wonderful job in KP, I must say, wonderful job. And this is a province we think, oh, there is terrorism there and there are problems there, and KP, I mean, how would that be possible? Look what they're doing. Moving on. So how do we get to 50%? That is what this symposium is about. And that's what I wanted to just say in the inaugural, that we need to set the tone on how do we move from 16, 17% to 50%. What are those strategies that we require? Where are we going wrong? So we want to get up after 2 days of deliberations with a strategy, and I would urge the organizers to have a strategy document in the end as to what are those strategies that move us forward. How do we do it? But do it we must. So some of my ideas that I want to share, which I think could move this a little, would be, number one, let's enhance the representation. The appointment process has to be rethought. How do we get them into the system? So encouraging more women to join the judiciary involves a multifaceted approach that addresses educational, institutional, cultural barriers. Here are some of the interventions. And of course, I don't need to go into the fact that, yes, everything starts at home. We would request parents sitting here to encourage their daughters to go out there and study law or study and go out to the university. Of course, we would want schools to have law subjects in them. And of course, we would like the universities which are running the law schools to be more robust, and they talk about such how to join the judiciary, and there should be mentorship or road shows there, but I don't want to go into that area. I want to come to my area, that we need to have a proper, robust, dynamic appointment policy, which we do not have. In spite of Article 25(3), we do not have an appointment policy on how do we look at this issue. We're just going on appointing people without any sensitivity at all. So in spite of Article 25(3), which says you can take affirmative action, we could just bring in more women over and above the men if we want to do that. Constitution allows us, but we're not looking at that article. So this applies to district judiciary as well as the constitutional courts. Draft rules of the constitutional courts have been framed, and they have not yet been approved. But for the first time, the concept of diversity has been brought into that, and of course that should lead into inclusion later on. But at least there's a beginning, and we see what happens if those rules go through. That would mean that we prefer a woman, irrespective of her seniority, and bring her up to a position, provided she meets the standards, and sort of that kind of an appointment policy. We need to have that factor also. Let's not confuse the fact that in a diversity or an inclusive setup, you might give preference to some women to come up. Does not mean that they cannot compete at the general seat level, which is purely on equality basis. Nobody is denying that. But in addition to that, we need to make some changes and some amendments to bring them up. So not only appointments into service, but effective representation through our judicial career, through their judicial career is also important. It's not like bringing them into service alone, but what happens later on. Like as I said earlier, diversity would mean we've got them in. I'm very happy we have some women in the system. But that's not enough. Now we need to make sure that they're meaningfully interacting with us. They're actually inclusive. We've brought them in a meaningful manner and value their presence in our system, and they're engaging with us now and doing and contributing in the best possible manner that they can. So just bringing them in is not enough. I've heard people say, oh, we've got the gender balance, we've got 2 women in. But then what? You do not have systems that look after that woman when she comes in. So the representation must continue once even she joins the system. The whole culture needs to support her so that she comes out and gives out the best to the system. So that is important. We cannot stop. And we have appointments and other positions, and you need to make sure that they move on to higher positions. Like as I said, nobody's heading a district judiciary in Punjab. Very sad. There are no district judges in Balochistan and one other province that I mentioned. So, I mean, this is not right. However, we have good stories. We have the registrar of the Supreme Court, she's a woman. We have the secretary of the Law and Justice Commission, she's sitting here, Ms. Rifat Bhatt. That's an encouragement. And we, of course, have these fantastic female judges who are at the Supreme Court, at the high courts, and wonderfully, you know, things are happening in that direction, but we need to add to that. So, let me just refer to Ruth Ginsburg here in a quote from her, that women belong in all places where decisions are being made. And that's not something we're understanding. We set up committees, we say, okay, these people can do it. Oh, this is a building matter, okay, you do it. But it doesn't come to our mind that, you know, women could also be doing all that. And we need to make sure at the district judiciary, at the high courts, at the Supreme Court, you set up committees. There are committees for administrative work. Every committee must have a woman, maybe headed by a woman. And you see the results. And I assure you they'll be better than the ones that you've seen so far. So that's what Ginsburg is saying. Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. And that's the kind of thought that we need to bring in. We need to also bring in awareness campaigns, programs that highlight the achievements of female judges and the importance of gender diversity in the judiciary can inspire women to pursue judicial careers. And I think this exhibition at the FGA would be in that direction. And I'm fully supportive of it, and I would urge everybody to go and visit that exhibition. I haven't done that, but I'll do that today. But everybody should do that. Then the mentorship programs could be considered. For example, establishing a mentorship program where experienced female judges mentor young female law practitioners can provide guidance, encouragement, career advancement opportunities, and events like this, the UN Women's commendable work, would be wonderful, you see. So we need to start engaging. We can't just sit in silos and imagine that 17% is going to move to 50%. I think our female judges ought to take up a rather more robust and a more proactive role of going out, and I'm quite sure that they are doing that, but they need to take that role of mentorship, telling people how you can come into judiciary and make a difference. Because I don't think a lot of lawyers understand that joining the judiciary could make a huge difference, which you can't as a lawyer. And I say that because I was a lawyer earlier. I think I can make a huge difference sitting here. My contribution could be immense, simply multiplied by being a judge. I could never do that or achieve that kind of a result or outcome as a lawyer. So young lawyers sitting here, please consider judiciary and think about it. You can make a difference and the country would develop. Policy formulations and implementations are important. We need to develop and implement policies that promote gender equity. I haven't seen a policy in my judicial system which does that. We did some work on transfer policy in Lahore, but our transfer policies need to be gender sensitive also, which I don't think they are very much. Such equal opportunity policies, anti-harassment policies, and parental leave policies, a number of things that we need to think about which affect women, which could make life much better. Monitoring and evaluation systems aren't there. For example, establish systems to regularly monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the gender policies, once we have one, and training programs using feedback to make necessary adjustments. There has to be a constant, it's a living and organic document that we see how changes can occur. We need to have an organizational cultural change. Launch campaigns to raise awareness about the importance of gender diversity, such as like this, and inclusivity within the judiciary. We need to constantly do that. And of course, encourage the involvement of women in all decision-making processes, which I mentioned earlier, in the development of policies also. We need to also think of professional networks, and now women in law and others, Kanundan and others come in the picture, who are the support systems that work with the judiciary and promote creation of networks for women in judiciary, which is wonderful. And I think we need more of them to talk about this because we're all busy working, and these networks around us bring in a lot of, share a lot of experiences, do a lot of good awareness. And I pointed out that these two organizations, a number of others, who are doing a great job on this. So a number of countries who are doing wonderfully well could be looked at. For example, Canada. And I recently had a chance to visit the Canadian Supreme Court. And I was, so impressed. I went and sat in court one. They just have one court, and they all sit en banc, so one court, and 9 judges. And out of 9 judges, 5 were women. I just could not believe that. 5 judges were women in Supreme Court of Canada. out of 9. The poor Chief Justice had women all around. Not poor, but I mean very happy Chief Justice. So that was interesting, and I think that's the kind of thing we need to do. And I went into the gallery, and I saw Beverly McLachlan. She was the longest-serving Chief Justice in the world, perhaps. She was there for 17 years, from 2000 to 2017, one of the ablest of judges also. She's written some wonderful judgments. And she was there, the Chief Justice in Canada, for 17 years. So, I mean, there are examples, and we need to follow that. So Scandinavian countries would be another example for anybody who's looking into this, and especially the FGA and UN Women to, let's look at Scandinavian model also and see how they're doing it. South Africa is doing a wonderful job, United States itself, Australia, I don't need to get into the policies they've done, but they come out as the leaders in the area, United Kingdom also. So that's one. Then structural changes are required, which I would like to underline. We need to move beyond symbolic gestures of diversity to enact deep structural changes that foster inclusive environments. This thing goes a bit unaddressed. We're not really sensitive to this. Do we have a toilet for women around? No, not an issue. That's not a main issue for us. But I think men here need to start thinking about these things, that how does a woman, operate? And we need to understand that. So you need to be a woman to understand this. Think of it. All men, please think that you're a woman, and then you're making a policy, and that would probably make things better. So create a more inclusive environment for female judges. Structural accommodations and thoughtful design considerations are crucial. These accommodations not only ensure comfort and privacy, but also signal a commitment to gender equality and inclusivity. Here are some essential structural accommodations that come to my mind. Separate restrooms, for example. We haven't really got to the unisex thing, but separate restrooms. Provide separate, well-maintained restrooms for women. These facilities should be easily accessible and offer privacy and security. And I think I visited some of the districts in Punjab, and I tell you the situation is appalling. A woman judge, a female judge will have to get out of a court, walk through the complex, the entire judicial complex, and probably get to some corner somewhere to use a toilet. I mean, how would you feel doing that as a judge? You get up, you don't have a restroom next to your court, and you're just walking by and going somewhere else. And there are a number of other issues attached to it. We talk about changing rooms, nursing areas. There could be private changing rooms for female judges, which are especially useful for those who might need to change into judicial robes. I mean, do we ever think about that? No. They'll come and do things on their own. Nursing rooms, there could be mothers who are nursing mothers dedicated to lactation, and rooms that are secure and comfortable can make significant difference. These rooms should have facilities for storing breast milk, comfortable seating, hygiene facilities. I mean, some of you might be just saying, oh, what is this? What's going on? But this is required. This is required. Security measures, enhanced security measures to ensure that female judges feel safe within the courthouse. And I tell you about Punjab, that's not so. I mean, there could be a number of things have happened at the bar level also in Punjab, and they're not safe. I mean, look at the court structures themselves, the way they're sitting. They're practically sitting on the road. Some of the female judges go look at the districts in Punjab. I have experience in Punjab, that's why I refer to Punjab. Go see how they're sitting. They're sitting on the road practically, dispensing justice. This can include secure parking, well-lit walkways, security personnel who are trained to gender sensitivity. Do they have a staff that works with them? Do we have a female staff working with a female judge? No, we never thought about that. We'll come to that later. We just have a woman in the system, and that's enough for us now. But that's not enough. We need to go beyond that and understand that we're giving them that culture that's required. Health and wellness facilities. Do we have a gym for them? Do we have a relaxation area for them? Do we have a prayer room for them? No, we can come to that later, not relevant. No, it is relevant. We need to start thinking about this now. Office and workplace design. Design office spaces that are ergonomic and cater to the needs of female judges. No, we have never thought how a female judge would want an office design. No. This includes providing adequate office furniture that suits a range of body types and preferences. Ensure that workspaces are situated in areas that provide both privacy and accessibility to courtrooms and administrative areas. Accessible meetings and conference rooms. No, we don't think about this. Accommodation for assistants and children. No, we don't think of this. Ensure that personal assistants, if any, have adequate workspace to close to the judge, then they assist, facilitate efficient work dynamics. No, we don't think about this. So it goes on, the list goes on, and I can just talk about this in the session, then I'll talk about structural changes. The next is capacity building. Now, this alone cannot happen. You've appointed them, you need to give them more representation, you give them higher positions, you involve them in committees, you look at all the structural changes. This is going to bring them in. This is how you market, and this is how women will feel comfortable and secure coming into judiciary. Then is the capacity building. I mean, a lot of men, including myself, need to understand all this. In order to ensure that justice system is truly equitable, fair, and gender responsive, it is imperative that both male and female judges are properly trained in sensitivity and sensibility required to understand and consider gender perspectives and understand inclusivity. I've been talking to some of the team of the ADB that did gender studies and gender program at Lahore with the judges, and I hear of some appalling stories and the kind of mindset that those instructors have communicated to me, the kind of mindset we men have in the judiciary, and that's sad. And I think we need to change that. That needs an immediate rethink. Training and education is important. I think FGA has already started programs on this, and I hope that all the other judicial academies would be looking at training, and training is important, and people need to understand, judges need to understand, the staff needs to understand how do we create that culture which is conducive for them. So the entire capacity building area is important. We need to give and make sure, and I have said this earlier, that give women leadership roles, and we need to have a program where we develop women for leadership roles. I haven't yet seen a program being offered at any of the academies, and I'm not sure if FGA does, where we train our judges from the district judiciary for leadership roles, women for leadership roles, that they will become district judges, they'll head this particular thing, they'll head that. No, I think it's all mainly men. So that's important. So I'll just, that was one area that I wanted to push and refer to. And I move on to jurisprudence. I don't want to talk much about it because that's about us. I think the Pakistani courts have come up with really robust jurisprudence promoting the rights of women. And I think the next session is all about jurisprudence. Over the course of time, the Superior Courts of Pakistan have adopted a more liberal and progressive interpretation of the law which takes into account gender-sensitive lens, paving way towards jurisprudence that is inclusive. This approach has been replicated in cases relating to two-finger virginity testing, workplace harassment, property and inheritance rights, right to vote. But I don't need to go into this and labor through this. There are courts, and there are some fantastic quotes from these judgments, very inspiring. But I think the next session is all about this, so I don't want to sort of double the exercise. In the end, you see, finally, I just want to leave you with the following thoughts, and I think that, to my mind, would be the areas that we need to be working on the next 2 days in order to develop where we're going ahead. Would be representation, would be one big area I would urge you to think about. And representation is not only just appointment, but representation later on when they are there, they keep getting promoted, they keep representing at higher positions. The second is the structural adjustments. How do we create the whole environment for them? As I said, most of the things we've talked about. Capacity building, what do we do in capacity building to ensure that we create a system where people would be interested and come into it? So in the end, I'll just leave you with Malala Yousafzai's quote, which I really like. So I raise up my voice, she says, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back. So please, let's move from 17 to 50%, and let's come up with the best strategies in the next 2 days. Thank you very much.